Hey, so this might look different than usual. Brandon and I are on the same laptop, same screen. We're trying this out. This is our new office. Welcome. We're seeing how things go. Let us know in the comments if you like us actually like sitting next to each other rather than in different rooms. And if you can hear us okay, let us know that too. But today, we're just to give you a heads up what we're going to talk about. Brandon accused me the other day. He's like, all we talk about is budgeting. And I was like, no, we don't talk about budgeting how everybody else in the world talks about budgeting. We do it very differently. In fact, compared to the rest of the world, what we talk about is kind of an anti-budget. So that's what we're going to share with you today, is what that really looks like for us. But before we jump in, I'm going to pass it over to Brandon to do some housekeeping.
We're in our office. We're not in our house. So
you know what I mean.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us. If you again like this video, click the thumbs up. And if you like us being in the same room, we've been doing StreamYard and being in different spots. You can see somebody walking behind us there. Kind of fun. So we really wanted to try new things. As a business owner, it's always about trying new things, getting new, different things, making it feel different. So that's somewhat what I think about with the budget. Is sometimes it feels like constraining, frustrating, challenging. But then, and also in creating content, sometimes it's we're always talking about the same thing, right? Budgets, maybe, right?
Well, I thought you were going to invite everybody, not just hit that thumbs up button, but jump into the comments. If you're catching us live, amazing. If you're catching the replay,
hit
awesome
hashtag replay.
Too. Yeah, you can put hashtag replay in the comments. You can still comment and we'll get back to you. It's really us that comments back and things like that too. So we're here. So the first thing though, are we ready to jump in? Anything else you want to say? Hit the subscribe button.
Yeah, I don't know, but whatever. We want this to be beneficial for you guys.
Okay. So we're going to start with what is budgeting. So the official, put it into my dictionary app on my computer, says an estimate of income and expenditures for a set period of time. Now, let me tell you what most people do or think of when they're thinking about budgeting. And you tell me if this is how you would define budgeting as well. I got to go to the comments. Okay. So you sit down with a spreadsheet or a piece of paper and a pencil. You're going to need a pencil because there's probably going to be lots of edits.
Erasing. Yeah.
Yeah. And you maybe try to get a handle on what your income is. And then you list out all the things that you need to spend that income on, your rent or your mortgage, all the different utilities. And then you might give yourself a budget for groceries and clothing, and then, and all the things that you have some control over, like the optional ones.
Yeah.
And hopefully at the end of the day, you've got something left over that you can save or invest, or at least maybe you're at zero at the end of that. And then you try to live it out, and you always hear yourself saying phrases like, well, it's not in the budget, or I don't have the budget for that, or I overspent my budget already. And nothing ever seems to work according to the budget. Does that sound familiar?
Yes, I've heard those things a few times.
Yeah.
Maybe more than a few.
If you give yourself $400 a month for groceries, you feel really constrained. You got to make it work with $400, which sometimes is a good thing, but you almost always spend more than $400. So what's the point of the budget in the first place?
Yeah, and then people give up because what's the point?
Yeah. So that's budgeting, what most people think of. Now, if you try to put that onto a business, Can you imagine sitting down with your business and saying, here's what I know my income's going to be, almost like a W-2 employee? That's just, it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah. But let's say you project that, and then you get all your expenses together, all the, different things, the cost of goods sold, the employees, the rent, the utilities, the garbage, like all those things. Then you try to get to zero, and then you start actually doing your business, and even worse than personally, it doesn't come out the way that you planned. Income is up or down, expenses are up and down, it's all over the place. In fact, you see this coming, so you never actually budget to begin with, because that's what you think budgeting is. And you're like, that's just not going to work. I'm always going to be off of the budget.
Yep.
So that's why a lot of business owners don't budget to begin with. Anything else you'd say about that before we go to why it doesn't work for budget businesses again? Some more?
Again, it's so much variability, right? Of costs and staffing and I don't know, all kinds of stuff that happens within a business that makes it hard. So for me, budgeting in a business is super difficult, even almost, I would say, impossible. So,
if you have any kind of seasonality to your income too.
Yeah. So from a business perspective, maybe from a personal, I can like eat less food or something along those lines, maybe because I want to keep it under the budget. Like I don't go eating ice cream. I don't know. But
that's like, always your example, eating ice cream.
Because it's, I don't know. But like whenever it comes for a business, sometimes it's a little more difficult. Right. Because there's so much.
Right. And just like in personal life, there's things that break, equipment, you got to fix it. It's just you take anything that you've experienced trying to budget personally and almost like 10x it. That's how it impacts a business budget, because the equipment's more expensive, the staff cause, 10 times more things to fix. Like income is 10 times more variable. It feels like all the things that make personal budgeting harder are like magnified if you try to budget business wise. And if you have a seasonal business, it's even worse, right? Because the income is like this big roller coaster.
Yeah, like I guess people who sell on Amazon, right? So their Q4 is like really great.
Or at least they hope it will be.
And then January, February, and I've had people say, oh, it's going to continue in February. I'm like, probably not. Because they don't understand the seasonality of what they do. At least that was their first year. So they thought, I'm like, well, we'll see what happens.
Yeah. And even if it's not seasonal, as in like within the year, right? You've got a big Q4 or summer's your best time or something like that. It could also be cyclical with the economy, right?
Yep.
When there are certain economic conditions where people spend more, and sometimes when they spend less. Maybe if you sell toilet paper, you can count on selling a good amount of toilet paper all the time, no matter the economic conditions. But if you sell cars, or you have a service business, or, the economy, something totally out of your control, can totally disrupt everything. Or maybe a competitor enters your space and you lose a bunch of your customers or clients to them. It could also be a change in taxes, and all of a sudden you have to either raise your prices or cut your expenses to make things work to be able to pay those taxes. There's all kinds of variables that just throw the budget out the window in an instant.
Yep. I remember when we had the coffee shop that the grocery store came in, I think it was year 3 or year 4, somewhere in there. And they served coffee. So our sales went down a little bit because the new thing down the street was there. And so people were over there for just a little bit until they realized how awesome we were, and they changed and they came back to us. But,
Yeah. So long story short, budgeting doesn't work for businesses because of all the reasons it doesn't work for personal use, times 10, because it just gets that much more impacted and changed with how business actually works. So now we get to ask the question, what works instead? If it's not budgeting in the traditional sense where you set a budget and you try to stick to it, what does work instead? Think about it for a second. If you can't forecast and say a year from now, I know I'm going to only spend this much on X, Y, or Z, when that could be totally out of your control, what do you do instead? If you can't really forecast into the future, you don't even really know what's going to happen next month in terms of your income or in terms of what kind of expenses could be like. Because like someone could raise prices, one of your vendors, or all kinds of things could happen. What could you do instead?
Ooh, I have an idea.
Brandon has an idea. You got to talk up because the mic's away from you.
So, for me, I think it's like, hey, I got to get out and make more money. I got to go out and bring in more dollars.
Yeah, that's what a lot of entrepreneurs do. They're like, if I can't control the expense side, or I can't control exactly my income, I better work my tail off to try to make as much money as possible. And there's a big reason that doesn't work. It's because if you haven't learned how to manage your cash flow, 100% of what comes in is going to be 100% of what goes out. And you're always going to be in this cycle of, I've got to earn, make more money, make more sales, all of that kind of thing. And the business is not sustainable in that kind of attitude. And it's really hard to switch, right? Like to say, to go from such a focus on, I just got to grow the revenue of my business, I just got to go, to switch and to go to the, okay, now I'm going to try to be sustainable and make sure I'm paying myself and the business is actually managing its cash flow well. Anything you'd add to that?
I think I've been on that treadmill for sure in running our business, or in general, of saying, okay, in order to make it happen, you gotta just keep pushing. I mean, that's also, I'm an 8 on the Enneagram, so he's
a pusher.
Yeah. So keep going and make that happen. And I think that's the challenge, and also good thing sometimes, of saying, okay, I want this result, I need to go and get this amount of money or something. I don't know, right?
Yeah. So it might be good to have income goals, but that's not the same as an anti-budget. You can't just earn your way out of managing cash flow and making sure your business is running well. Now, the other thing people might be thinking in terms of, well, what is the business anti-budget, is, well, I'm just going to reinvest all my profits to help my business grow. So even if I can't go make more money, if I reinvest to build better infrastructure or to do product development or something, then that will help my business grow, and the whole thing will just grow really well. So I'm not going to try to 10x my revenue. I'm in like just by pushing for it, but I'm going to reinvest my profits to buy more inventory, and that because I have more inventory, my business will grow. Do you see where that's falling down right now? Right?
Yeah.
Anything you'd add to that?
I mean, I've seen again lots of people who are making $1 million. They have $1 million business and they're not actually paying themselves.
And they've run themselves ragged.
Yeah. And I think that there's a healthy balance. You know, you got to at least have some sort of salary, pay, something along those lines to feel like you're doing okay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Now I'm going to say something very controversial.
Uh-oh.
I hope I don't get in trouble for this. So some of you who are watching this on the replay or maybe live, you know that we're profit first professionals, and you think we're going to say that the business anti-budget is the profit first system. And that's not true. Does that surprise you that I would say that?
Maybe. I don't know what you're going to say.
Well, if you think about profit first, you have your income, you take the percentages, you put a percent away for profit, a percent toward owner's comp, a percent towards taxes, and a percent towards operating expenses. You run your budget, or you run your business off of that. That might feel like budgeting, but it's not budgeting. It's not even an anti-budget. It's kind of somewhere in between. It is kind of a cash flow management system, but it doesn't tell you how to spend your operating expenses or where maybe you can increase your income. And you could still get lost in the trap of saying, okay, this coming year, I'm going to make this amount of money. And so I'm going to have this percentage go into my OpEx, and you build your business that way. And then you don't make that amount of money. And you're kind of stuck in this budget, all these pre-decisions that you made thinking a year in advance when that hasn't actually come true. Right? Yep. You can still get stuck in that. Anything you'd add? Why profit first is not a business anti-budget? Do you see what I'm saying? Or any questions you'd ask?
I mean, I'm trying to follow you here. I know.
Okay, so let's say, let's do something practical, tangible. Okay, let's say you're a $500,000 business. Okay.
Okay.
You could use the profit first framework to say January 1st, I'm going to make $500,000 this year, and 40% of that's going to go into my operating expenses. So I'm going to have these staff, I'm going to have this office, I'm going to get this, get all your ducks in a row in terms of how you're going to spend that operating expense and run your business off of that budget. But what if you only make $400,000?
Then it's all screwed up.
You're sticking to the budget you set up in January, right? But you're not. You're still going to run your business into the ground. You're still going to end up in debt December 31st. That's still budgeting, right? Yeah. Thinking that way. So even if you follow the profit first framework, if you're doing it in a budgeting kind of way, it doesn't work. Okay. And a lot of people do that, and it's the wrong way to do profit first. Okay. So here's the thing about budgeting. Remember the dictionary definition? It's an estimate of income and expenditures for a set period of time. Budgeting is forecasting, looking into the future. As a business, you do not know what the future is going to hold, period. You might think you know, but none of us know.
And we're making some educated guesses and hope.
Yeah, but you still can't run your business off a budget, because it could be 10 times different than what the budget says it's going to be, right?
So what would you run it on?
So here's what you do. The anti-budget is looking at what you have in the bank today and saying, what does this money need to do before I make more money again? And only spending what you already currently have without forecasting any new dollars coming in. So it's asking yourself, okay, here's what I have right now in my bank accounts for my business. What does that money need to do? If I never make another dollar again, what does that money need to do? That's anti-budgeting, right?
Yeah.
Because there's no future thinking. You're not counting on any new income. You're saying, this is what I have. Here's what I need it to do.
Gotcha.
How would your business be different if that's what you're doing? That's kind of a rhetorical question. But think, Brandon, think about the business owners you know, the entrepreneurial types. How would their business be different if they operated in, here's the money I have right now. If I never make another dime, what do I need that money to do for me?
It'd be a little bit more freedom, I think. Do you think?
Some people might say that's more restrictive. What do you mean?
Well, because then if it's free, I mean, you've already reached we've reached that goal or the thing, whatever you call it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I just thought people might not be able to hear us. Keep going. We could be like talking this whole time and no one might
Oh,
hear us.
I think somebody did because there was like, I don't know. Yep,
Okay.
there's, yep, there you
We're
go.
good. Okay. Keep going.
There's some freedom of feeling like, hey, this is already covered. I've covered next month or next year's spending already, and so everything's gravy.
Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah. So like if you're just starting out, what you're saying, Brandon, is if you think this income I brought in, that's a cell phone payment. That's what Brandon does all the time. He'll bring in money and he'll be like, that's a cell phone payment, right? Or you bring in maybe a little bit more and you're like, I just covered my mortgage, right? Or I just covered the office rent, or I just covered this employee or this staff person, or, whatever it might be. Now you're starting to think in the moment of what that real money that you're bringing in, what real expenses it's covering. And you're thinking in this way that is maybe a little extra motivating.
Yeah.
Right. And the more you can add some of your personal things in there, right? Like I just covered my mortgage, right? With the, 50% or 40% or however much is the operating or the owner's compensation of that. If you're using the profit first method, that's super motivating rather than just thinking, oh, I just made this chunk of money for my business. I don't know how much of that I'm going to see. So it's kind of where these kind of things might come together to be like, I just closed that deal. Here's what that means in terms of what operating expenses I can cover. But it also is, here's how much gets to go in my pocket in owner's compensation or in profit to cover this part of my personal life too. And that can be really exciting when you're like, I just covered next month's vacation, or like I just covered the Christmas budget, or whatever it might be. I use that word budget again. Sorry.
Well, I think again, it's for me, it's looking and saying, oh, I just covered my salary or owner's pay for the month or for 2 months. Oh, I just, by what I did this month, it covered collectively 2 months of our business expenses and everything. And that's kind of cool to reach that and saying, I did this by myself.
Yeah.
Not that I did it by myself. Usually Amanda's helping out a lot.
Now, the problem comes if you're not getting enough revenue to cover those things, right? And you think, well, how am I going to make X, Y, or Z? How am I going to cover that this month? And that can feel restricting, but it could also, exactly what you need to do, right? To make sure that you're making things happen.
So what would you do in that case?
Yeah. I might do what every business owner hates to do, cut some expenses, which is sad and hard. But if you're not bringing in the revenue, the expenses don't matter.
Yeah. I feel like there's a lot of businesses that I've seen who they're spending way more than they are bringing in. And a lot of people are making money off of their business, not them.
Yep.
And that's, again, where I talk to a lot of clients and just ask, you are your greatest asset. That's why owner's pay is the highest in the profit first system, because you are the greatest asset.
At least when your business is growing. Yeah.
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 Or in the first stage.
Mm-hmm. So that's the business anti-budget, is just to look at the real cash on hand that you have right now and ask, what does this need to do for me? And then when you get your next inflow, right, you get that next payment, you get that next bill paid, right? Like accounts receivable comes in, you ask, okay, what do I need this to do for me? And you just keep going with that. The money comes in, you ask what it needs to do for you. Maybe you use that profit first system to divide it out, but even what you have in your operating expense budget or a line item in that bank account, you ask, well, what do I need this to do for me? And actually, over time, what this does is redefine the word budget. Budget is no longer forecasting and looking at what's life going to be like, or what's my business going to be like in a year from now or next quarter.
Yeah.
How am I going to budget accordingly? And this forecasting and planning thing, which never goes according to the plan anyway. What's that? We make plans, God laughs. Like that's in business times 10, right? Like we were talking about earlier. Instead, budgeting becomes this, okay, this money came in. What do I need it to do for me? Okay, this money came in. What do I need to do it for me? And that's a lot easier of a decision to make than what is my business going to look like for the rest of this year or for this quarter or even for this month in terms of like what kind of money do I need to budget for X, Y, or Z?
Well, and I still think the percentages help.
Yeah.
And then I know, hey, what is it? What do I need it to do for me as a year? It helps me to figure out and see, I don't know, what we want to accomplish. And as we grow, or maybe
That's goal setting though. You're setting a goal for here's your revenue so that you hit these things. That's still different than budgeting.
Yeah. You're making it all confusing here.
So here's how you get it to not be confusing. Are you ready for this? We have taken what we do within our business. We used to do this more regularly. Now we just do it once a month. On the last Saturday of the month is when Brandon and I do it. But we're bringing it to you once a month on a Wednesday in the middle of the day, maybe as a lunch break kind of thing, where we want to help you really take control of the cash flow of your business, take control of the assets that your business has, take control of the debts that your business have, and also see what are those improvements you want to make and how can those improvements happen. If you think about it, the work of a CFO is to pull together, here's what the business has been doing financially. Here's, look back as far as they want, a month or a year or whatever. Let's evaluate that. And then let's see, okay, based on what we think is going to happen next, let's think about what the business might do going forward. And that might feel like budgeting, but it's really like looking at where you've been and making strategic choices about what you want to do going forward to increase revenue, decrease expenses, knowing which one of those to focus on, right? Because you can't always do both of them, and so on and so forth. So what that kind of CFO role, if you're not at the place or in the multi-million dollars to hire someone out to do that for you, guess what? You have to do that for yourself. That's on your shoulders.
Along with everything else.
No one else is going to do that for you. But it's super crucial because I think it's like half of businesses fail because of money problems. Either they run out of money because they're spending too much, or they don't keep enough money aside to fuel the growth of their business, right? And so we think it's because they're ignoring the numbers, right? They're not looking at them face to face and performing that CFO role for themselves. And so that's what we're on a mission to change. We're on a mission to help CEOs to be their own CFO and to help their business grow to the point where they're able to hire a CFO, but then they're also going to know enough to be able to oversee that CFO and make sure they're doing the right job and talk the language with them and all that kind of thing. So if you're the kind of person or business owner that currently ignores the numbers, gets really frustrated with the numbers, is kind of like in knowledge of the numbers, but isn't sure how to make them change, then we've got a really awesome time for you, 2 hours per month for you to step back and do the kind of CFO work that could move your business forward, could save you hours and hours of time and frustration, could literally save your business from failing. You can find out more at this link right here, cfohours.com. And there you'll also get a methodology that we're developing that's not budgeting. We call it the still method, and it's about taking a step back from your business, being still, looking at some of the numbers in your business from a healthy place, right? From this more meditative practice kind of place. so that you can see the way forward and the next steps to take without having to feel like you've got to know what's going to happen in the future.
Yep. I think that's huge and super powerful. Like just thinking about that a lot of businesses, I mean, 83% of businesses fail.
No, it's 83% of businesses are living paycheck to paycheck.
Oh, is that what it is?
It's something like 9 out of 10 of businesses fail, but it depends on what kind of time frame you're looking at. The statistics all over the place.
Yeah, so a lot of businesses fail, and a lot is because of money. I'm pretpretty sure 83%. But,
of the businesses that fail, half fail because of money.
Gotcha. So, but a lot are not making it, and money is a big factor. It could be, family. Could be a lot of things that cause it to go south. But knowing your numbers, knowing how that affects everything else is a huge thing. And so that's kind of why we thought about the CFO hours and why we created it, is saying you as the business owner should know those things, at least having an idea and being able to make good decisions to move the business forward. Logical decisions, that will make sense. And Amanda's really smart at this stuff. So you want to join her. So check out CFOhours.com. Love to see you there.
Okay. I think we're going to sign off for now. The first CFO Hours this way is this coming Wednesday, if you're catching this shortly after it's come out. So, but it's going to happen. You're pointing at me. It's going to happen once a month for Q4, and then we'll decide where to go from there. So if you want to be part of this, then please go there, check it out. We look forward to seeing you there. We'll catch you later. See ya.
All right.
Peace.
Bye-bye.